Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravana Chari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashto Tirashata Shri Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashto Tirashata Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gauda Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Govina Shama Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya We're reading from the 5th canto, which is entitled The Creative Impetus, and we're on chapter 5, Lord Rishabhadev's teachings, and we're in text 6. So if everyone could please repeat after me. Evam manaha karma vasham prayunkte vidyaya atmani padiyamane pritihi na yavat mai vasudeve na muchate deha yogena tavat Evam mana karma visham prayunkte avidyatman yupadiyamane pratirna yavan mayi vasudeve namuchate deha yogena tavat evam mana karma visham prayunkte avidyatman yupadiyamane pratirna yavan mayi vasudeve namuchate deha yogena tavat evam mana karma visham prayunkte avidyatman yupadiyamane pratirna yavan mayi vasudeve namuchate deha yogena tavat Evam, thus, manaha, the mind, karma vasham, subjugated by fruitive activities, prayunkte, acts, avidya, by ignorance, atmani, when the living entity, upadiyamane, is covered, pratihi, love, na, not, yavat, as long as, mayi, unto me, vasudeve, Vasudev, Krishna, na, not, muchte, is delivered, deha yogena, from contact with the material body, tavat, so long. Translation, commentary by His Divine Grace, HG Bhakti Swami Prabhupada. When the living entity is covered by the mode of ignorance, he does not understand the individual living being and the supreme living being, when his mind is subjugated to a fruitive activity. Therefore, until one has love for Lord Vasudeva, who is none other than myself, he is certainly not delivered from having to accept a material body again and again. Purport. When the mind is polluted by fruitive activity, the living entity wants to be elevated from one material position to another. Generally, everyone is involved in working hard, day and night, to improve his economic condition. Even when one understands the Vedic rituals, he becomes interested in promotion to heavenly planets, not knowing that one's real interest lies in returning home back to Godhead. By acting on the platform of fruitive activity, one wanders throughout the universe in different species and forms. Unless he comes in contact with a devotee of the Lord, a guru, he does not become attached to the service of Lord Vasudeva. Knowledge of Vasudeva requires many births to understand, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text 19, which Prabhupada quoted yesterday in the purport as well. Vasudeva sarvamitis samahatma sadurlabhaha. After struggling for existence for many births, one may take shelter at the lotus feet of Vasudeva, Krishna. When this happens, one actually becomes wise and surrenders unto him. That is the only way to stop the repetition of birth and death. This is confirmed in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 19, text 151, and the instructions given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Srila Rupa Goswami at the Shashvameda Ghat. Pramanda Brahmate Kon Bhagavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. The living entity wanders throughout different planets in different forms and bodies, but if by chance he comes in contact with a bona fide spiritual master, by the grace of the spiritual master he receives Lord Krishna's shelter and his devotional life begins. Om Gyanati Vedandasya Garanjana Shalakaya Chukshul Anmeditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Makam Garirvachalam Pangam Langayate Grim Yakripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Diditaranam Vancha Kapadibishcha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So to be, Srila Prabhupada says here in the purport, to be polluted by fruitive activity, or say material desire, is to want to be elevated from one material position to another. And this manifests in working hard day and night to improve economic condition, which, yeah, a lot of people, someone was telling me about their son. It's like working like a ridiculous amount of time at his office. And it was all about like competition, because you're trying to rise higher, right? Rise to higher positions and, yeah, status. And they almost take it as just like kind of normal, like, oh, this is normal. This is what we're supposed to be doing. This is what I have to do. You know, I have to rise. I have to work very hard, practically working hard day and night, like Prabhupada says here, working many hours in the day, not sleeping much, trying to rise. So, but that is not the process, or that's not the success formula for, you know, being Krishna conscious. Or becoming liberated, because again, this is all just born out of material desire. So, and out of so many people like that in the world, one or a few or some may come in contact with the bona fide spiritual master, as it's quoted here, Brahmanda Brahmati Kon Bhagavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaking to Rupa Goswami, which I'll read in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this verse. It's 151. According to their karma, Prabhupada's translation, according to their karma, all living entities are wandering throughout the entire universe. Some of them are being elevated to the upper planetary systems, and some are going down into the lower planetary systems. Out of many millions of wandering living entities, one who is very fortunate gets an opportunity to associate with a bona fide spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. By the mercy of both Krishna and the spiritual master, such a person receives the seed of the creeper of devotional service. Purport. When we speak of Brahmanda, we refer to the whole universe, or to the cluster of many millions of universes. In all the universes there are innumerable planets, and there are innumerable living entities upon those planets, in the air, on the land, and in the water. There are millions and trillions of living entities everywhere, and they are engaged by Maya, in suffering and enjoying the results of their fruitive activity, life after life. This is the position of the materially conditioned living entities. Out of many of these living entities, one who is actually fortunate, Bhagavan, comes in contact with a bona fide spiritual master by Krishna's mercy. Krishna is situated in everyone's heart, and if one desires something, Krishna fulfills one's desire. You gotta be careful what you desire. We have to be careful what we desire. If the living entity by chance or fortune comes in contact with the Krishna consciousness movement and wishes to associate with that movement, Krishna, who is situated in everyone's heart, gives him the chance to meet a bona fide spiritual master. This is called Guru Krishna Prasad. Krishna is prepared to bestow his mercy upon all living entities, and as soon as a living entity desires the Lord's mercy, the Lord immediately gives him an opportunity to meet a bona fide spiritual master. Such a fortunate person is fortified by both Krishna and the spiritual master. He is helped from within by Krishna and from without by the spiritual master. Both are prepared to help the sincere living being become free from material bondage. How one can become this fortunate can be seen in the life of Srila Narada Muni. In his previous life, he was born of a maidservant. Although he was not born into a prestigious position, his mother was fortunately engaged in rendering service to some Vaishnavas. When these Vaishnavas were resting during the Chaturmasya period, the boy Narada took the opportunity to engage in their service. Taking compassion upon the boy, the Vaishnavas offered him the remnants of their food. By serving these Vaishnavas and obeying their orders, the boy became the object of their sympathy, and by the Vaishnav's unknown mercy, he gradually became a pure devotee. In the next life, he was Narada Muni, the most exalted of Vaishnavas and the most important guru and acharya of Vaishnavas. Following in the footsteps of Narada Muni, this Krishna consciousness movement is rendering service to humanity by giving everyone a chance to come in contact with Krishna. If one is fortunate, he becomes intimately related with this movement. Then, by the grace of Krishna, one's life becomes successful. Everyone has dormant Krishna Bhakti, love for Krishna, and in association of good devotees, that love is revealed. As stated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Saddhikabandoi Shravanada Shuddha Chittikoridoi. Dormant devotional service to Krishna is within everyone simply by associating with devotees. Hearing their good instructions and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one awakens his dormant love for Krishna. In this way, one acquires the seed of devotional service. Guru Krishna Prasade Paya Bhakti Lata Bij. So, the example Srila Prabhupada gives in this purport, it's a very amazing purport we just read, is Srila Narada Muni. So Srila Narada Muni, he specifically mentions his early life before he became Narada Muni. So that is found in the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto. So I'll read some verses about Narada Muni. And Narada Muni, he's actually telling Srila Vyasadeva, who is his disciple. Srila Vyasadeva is Narada Muni's disciple. So he's telling Srila Vyasadeva about his past. You know, sometimes devotees would ask Srila Prabhupada about his childhood or about his past, and he would tell devotees, right, different things. My childhood, or this or that. So similarly, Vyasadeva is asking Narada Muni about his life, and Narada Muni is telling him. So this is first canto, chapter 5, Narada Instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam, text 25. And if anybody wants to read along, it's 1:5:25. 1:5:25. 1:5:25. I repeat, 1:5:25. Okay. Once only by their permission, I took the remnants of their food. So this is the Bhaktivedantas, the Vaishnavas. They're for Chaturmasya, the 4-month rainy season in India. They stay in one place and hear and chant about Krishna. Take a little rest from their preaching activities. So Narada Muni, in his previous life, as the son of a maidservant, he is explaining this now. He's speaking on his experience of associating with these Bhaktivedantas, Prabhupada calls them. Once only, by their permission, I took the remnants of their food, and by so doing, all my sins were at once eradicated. Thus being engaged, I became purified in heart. And at that time, the very nature of the transcendentalist became attractive to me. And all these are amazing purports also, but we're going to read the verses now. O Vyasadeva, in that association, by the mercy of those great Vedantists, I could hear them describe the attractive activities of Lord Krishna, and thus listening attentively, my taste for hearing of the personality of Godhead increased at every step. O great sage, as soon as I got a taste of the personality of Godhead, my attention to hear of the Lord was unflinching. And as my taste developed, I could realize that it was only in my ignorance that I had accepted gross and subtle coverings, for both the Lord and I are transcendental. Thus, during 2 seasons, the rainy season and autumn, I had the opportunity to hear these great-souled sages constantly chant the unadulterated glories of the Lord, Hari. As the flow of my devotional service began, the coverings of the modes of passion and ignorance vanished. I was very much attached to those sages. I was gentle in behavior, and all my sins were eradicated in their service. In my heart, I had strong faith in them. I had subjugated the senses, and I was strictly following them with body and mind. As they were leaving, those Bhaktivedantas, who were very kind to poor-hearted souls, instructed me in that most confidential subject which is instructed by the personality of Godhead himself. By that confidential knowledge, I could understand clearly the influence of the energy of Lord Sri Krishna, the creator, maintainer, and annihilator of everything. By knowing that, one can return to him and personally meet him. O Brahman Vyasadeva, it is decided by the learned that the best remedial measure for removing all troubles and miseries is to dedicate one's activities to the service of the Supreme Lord, Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. So then he continues, and for some time. And then in the next chapter, chapter 6, conversation between Narada and Vyasadeva, he continues. So it's 165. 165. So we're continuing to read. Sri Narada said, the great sages who had imparted scientific knowledge of transcendence to me departed for other places, and I had to pass my life in this way. So Narada Muni, being son of a maidservant, during Chaturmasya, he was serving these Bhaktivedantas. He was hearing from them. He was taking the remnants, Maha Prasad. And in this way, he was becoming purified and attached to the messages of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and gradually becoming a pure devotee, his heart becoming cleansed. And then these Bhaktivedantas, they had to leave, right? Because Chaturmasya ended, and then they went on their tour, their preaching tour. So this is what he's saying now, that they departed for other places, and I had to pass my life in this way. I was the only son of my mother, who was not only a simple woman, but a maidservant as well. Since I was her only offspring, she had no other alternative for protection. She bound me with the tie of affection. She wanted to look after my maintenance properly, but because she was not independent, she was not able to do anything for me. The world is under the full control of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, everyone is like a wooden doll in the hands of a puppet master. When I was a mere child of 5 years, I lived in a Brahmin school. I was dependent on my mother's affection and had no experience of different lands. Once upon a time, my poor mother, when going out one night to milk a cow, was bitten on the leg by a serpent, influenced by supreme time. I took this as the special mercy of the Lord, who always desires benedictions for his devotees, and so thinking, I started for the north. After my departure, I passed through many flourishing metropolises. What is it? Polises? Towns, villages, animal farms, mines, agricultural lands, valleys, flower gardens, nursery gardens, and natural forests. So he left, right? His mother passed away, bitten by a snake, and he left home. I passed through hills and mountains full of reservoirs of various minerals like gold, silver, and copper, and through tracts of land with reservoirs of water filled with beautiful lotus flowers, fit for the denizens of heaven, decorated with bewildered bees and singing birds. I then passed alone through many forests of rushes, bamboo reeds, sharp grass, weeds, and caves, which were very difficult to go through alone. I visited deep, dark, and dangerously fearful forests, which were the play yards of snakes, owls, and jackals. Thus traveling, I felt tired, both bodily and mentally, and I was both thirsty and hungry. So I took a bath in a river, lake, and also drank water. By contacting water, I got relief from my exhaustion. After that, under the shadow of a banyan tree in an uninhabited forest, I began to meditate upon the Supersoul, situated within, using my intelligence, as I had heard from liberated souls. As I had learned from liberated souls. As soon as I began to meditate upon the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead with my mind transformed in transcendental love, tears rolled down my eyes, and without delay the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, appeared on the lotus of my heart. So he's meditating, and then Krishna appeared on the lotus of his heart. O Vyasadeva, at that time, being exceedingly overpowered by feelings of happiness, every part of my body became separately enlivened. Being absorbed in an ocean of ecstasy, I could not see both myself and the Lord. The transcendental form of the Lord, as it is, satisfies the mind's desire and at once erases all mental incongruities. Upon losing that form, I suddenly got up, being perturbed, as is usual when one loses that which is desirable. So he saw Krishna, and then Krishna left. I desired to see again that transcendental form of the Lord, but despite my attempts to concentrate upon the heart with eagerness to view the form again, I could not see him anymore. And thus, dissatisfied, I was very much aggrieved. All right, so a few more verses. Seeing my attempts in that lonely place, the personality of Godhead, who is transcendental to all mundane description, spoke to me with gravity and pleasing words just to mitigate my grief. So Krishna spoke to him. O Narada, the Lord spoke. So I'm not going to try to do a Amala Bhakti Swami impersonation here, but because Amala Bhakti Swami, well, in this particular case, it's Krishna speaking, but yeah, I'm not going to try to speak like Prahlad Maharaj right? But Amala Bhakti Swami does that all throughout the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Different voices. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is speaking to Ramananda Roy, he has two voices, one for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one for Ramananda Roy. So, but he did a great service of recording all this book. Yeah. But, O Narada, the Lord spoke, I regret that during this lifetime you will not be able to see me anymore. So he said, okay, you saw me, and now I regret that you're not going to see me anymore in this lifetime. Those who are incomplete in service and who are not completely free from all material taints can hardly see me. O virtuous one, you have only once seen my person, and this is just to increase your desire for me. Because the more you hanker for me, the more you'll be freed from all material desires. By service of the Absolute Truth, even for a few days, a devotee attains firm and fixed intelligence in me, consequently goes on to become my associate in the transcendental world after giving up the present deplorable material worlds. Intelligence engaged in my devotion cannot be thwarted at any time, even at the time of creation as well as the time of annihilation. Your remembrance will continue by my mercy. Then that supreme authority, personified by sound and unseen by eyes, but most wonderful, stopped speaking. Feeling a sense of gratitude, I offered my obeisances unto him, bowing my head. Thus I began chanting the holy name and fame of the Lord by repeated recitation, ignoring all the formalities of the material world. Such chanting and remembering of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are benedictory. So doing, I traveled all over the earth, fully satisfied, humble, and unenvious. All right. Okay. And so, O Brahman Vyasadeva, in due course of time, I, who was fully absorbed in thinking of Krishna and who therefore had no attachments, being completely freed from all material taints, met with death, as lightning and illumination occur simultaneously. Having been awarded a transcendental body befitting an associate of the personality of Godhead, I quit the body made of 5 material elements, and thus all acquired fruitive results of work stopped. At the end of the millennium, when the personality of Godhead Lord Narayan lay down within the water of devastation, Brahma began to enter into him along with all creative elements, and I also entered through his breathing. So then it goes on, then he says that he became Narada Muni. He became Narada Muni. And he says, since then, by the grace of the Almighty Vishnu, I travel everywhere, without restriction, both in the transcendental world and in the 3 divisions of the material world. This is because I am fixed in unbroken devotional service of the Lord. So, he became Narada Muni. So he... So yeah, this is the process that first one is a absolute fool and is wasting their time, their valuable human form of life, and working hard like a donkey. Or maybe they say, I didn't do that in this life. Or being lazy like a lazy person, or however other ways one chooses to waste their time. First they're wasting their time, and they say, well, I didn't do much of that in this life. Well, there's other lives we've wasted time. And then somehow or other, by Prabhupada uses the word chance, by good fortune, and also by our being repeatedly unsuccessful in trying to enjoy in this material world, we come in contact with the bona fide spiritual master, Brahmanda Brahmate Kon Bhagavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade by Bhakti Lata Beach. And by hearing, by taking the remnants, right, like Narada Muni took the remnants of those Vaishnavas, and by association we begin the process of devotional service. And then the perfect example of this is the son of a maidservant, who became Narada Muni, a young boy, which we just read. And by engaging in this particular association with the Bhaktivedantas, he became extremely advanced, extremely purified, to the degree he saw Krishna. And then, there's many great lessons here, but one lesson we find in this Narada Muni speaking to Vyasadeva is that when his mother was bit by a snake while she went out to go milk a cow, he said, oh, I accepted this as the mercy of Krishna. He didn't say, oh, well, he didn't go into depression or this and that. He said, I accepted this as the mercy of Krishna. And that's difficult to do. That's difficult to do. I mean, recently, our Jagannath Tirtha, remember Jagannath Tirtha here, who married Elena, who became Ananga Priya, Ananga Gopi Mataji. Same difference, right? No. Ananga Gopi. They moved to Mayapur, and then because of the world situation, recent world situation over the last 2 years or whatever, a year and a half, they had to get out of Mayapur and they went to Moscow. So they've been there in Moscow for quite a while, Russia. They also had a daughter, Hari Priya. Radhanath Swami gave her the name Hari Priya. Anyways, but I talked to him maybe within the last year, and he was telling me how his father and mother, they live in, I don't know, I forgot, Tennessee or somewhere in America, kind of in nature, right, away from city, and they retired there. They used to live here in San Diego. So Jagannath Tirtha Prabhu was telling me how his father had cancer, and he was struggling, and it was, he was trying to fight it, but it wasn't working so well, and how Jagannath Tirtha and them, they wanted to come to America to visit them. So anyways, recently I spoke with Jagannath Tirtha about a few things, and then I asked him, I said, how's your father doing? And because I knew he had cancer. And he said, he said a few things, and then he said, oh, anyways, but he said that actually his father passed away recently. And what happened was that somehow or other, his mother was out gardening, and somehow or other, the house caught on fire. And the whole house burned down. And his father died in the fire. And then, anyway, so I was talking to him about this, and no, he's in Moscow. It was just them two. The mother was out gardening, and somehow the house caught on fire, and the father was in there, and he died. But anyways, I was talking to him, and interesting enough, I mean, he told me how he was seeing the positive in it. Because that's like extremely tragic, you know, to have somebody close to you like that die in such a situation. Difficult, you know. And it happens all the time, all over the world. Like I just met a very nice couple yesterday from South India. They came to the temple. They were taking darshan, and I asked them, you know, we're talking a little bit. I asked them, because their daughter's going to UCSD. So I asked them, how many children do you have? And they just said, oh, we have one. And then I kind of, for whatever reason, I said, oh, just one? And then they started, you know, the woman started to cry a little bit, and then the father was also, you know, but they live in Nigeria, originally from India, but they said, oh, our son just passed away. And he said he fell off a high-rise in Nigeria. He was 24 years old. So, you know, it's very traumatic for for parents. And so it's happening all over the world. It's just a very tragic world, actually. So anyways, but Jagannath Tirtha, he was telling me about the positive. He said, oh, well, the positive way of looking at it is that my father's suffering ended. He was suffering, you know, cancer, so his suffering ended. Krishna ended his suffering. And he said also the house being burnt down, that's also Krishna's mercy, because if he died and then my mother was still there in the house, there's all these memories there. You know, we lived here, and you know, it's actually, if for somebody to live in a house and then, you know, their husband or their wife passes away, there's so many memories there, you know. Just they live there for years. So it's traumatic, you know. Just like Prabhupada gave that example, when a mother sees the shoe, a shoe of her son, they just don't see a shoe. I mean, us, we see a small shoe. Oh, that's a piece of junk, you know, throw it in the trash. But for the mother, it's very, you know, emotion. You know, people start crying, you know, oh, my little son. So similar principle. So the house was burned, and he was saying he was seeing that as Krishna's mercy. So Narada Muni, his mother died from a snake bite. He said, oh, this is the arrangement of Krishna. This is Krishna's mercy. So then later, that's one thing could learn. And then later, he just left. He left and he started traveling. And that's a good lesson for us too. He was detached. We shouldn't be attached. He was detached. When it's time to leave, it's time to leave. Just like the Pandavas, right? When it was time to walk north, that's a common thing, walking north up to the Himalayas, which means, practically speaking, they walked until they couldn't walk anymore, until they dropped. So when it was time to walk, they just walked. So can't, like, you know, so we have to be kind of ready and that can mean different things, right? Different stages of life and so on. And of course we have to do all that under the guidance of the spiritual master and the devotees, but he walked. And then through his serious meditation, his serious concentration, Krishna appeared on the lotus of his heart. But then Krishna disappeared. And then Krishna spoke to him and he said, I appeared before you, and now you're not going to see me again. But you being eager to see me, this is actually purifying to you. In other words, the more you become eager to see, the more we become eager to connect with Krishna, it's actually purifying. So sometimes Krishna steps back a little bit. And then eventually he lived his life, and he he left that particular body and became Narada Muni, the transcendental spaceman, right, preaching all over, full freedom to go wherever he wants and preach and spread Krishna consciousness. So we may not become like Narada Muni, absolutely, but in our own, small way, our own little way, we could follow in the footsteps. This is a great example, right? Becoming purified and then, right, going through the whole different stages, and then eventually, becoming absolute lovers of Krishna, and also Krishna gives him the power to influence people. So it's not that oh yeah, I could just by my own, the sweat of my brow, I could be like like Hridayananda Goswami says, right, like a sadhana champion, right? And by the strength of my sadhana, by the strength of my brahmacharya, by the strength of this, that, by the strength of my intelligence, I'll spread Krishna consciousness. Well, those things may be helpful, but ultimately we have to be empowered, and that comes from Krishna. So Krishna is directly empowering Narada Muni, and he could empower us as well. So yeah, in conclusion, we want to follow in the footsteps of Narada Muni. We don't want to follow in the footsteps of the other people who are not worth following, the fruit of workers and so on. So, does anybody have any comment or question? Yes, Daniel.
Thank you, Balaram Prabhu. Wonderful class.
Thank you.
So my question would be, if we're noticing that someone's passing away and they pass on to the next life, and we're there kind of like grieving, or we're trying to find a way to get through this, how does one essentially like understand that this is like their actual ultimate form, and actually have that kind of acceptance?
Can you repeat the last part of the sentence?
So I'm just saying, like, ultimate form, like we're not this body.
Yeah.
So their ultimate form. How can we accept that?
That this isn't our ultimate form?
Yeah, and that like accepting that they're dead.
That somebody's
Because like I've had family members who passed away, and to me it just seems like, oh, they went on vacation. Like I'm gonna go see them again later on. But
yeah.
Like I haven't really like grieved for them.
Yeah. All right. Well. Well, the most important thing is that people become educated, right? Therefore, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and they know, right, what's what, what's not, what's true, what's not true. But they say, like, the first thing when you're trying to give someone some solace is you don't first just start preaching to them, oh yeah, well, hey, okay, your father just died, or your mother just died, or your grandfather, whatever, but hey, they're not their body, what are you, like in Maya or something? It's like, what's wrong with you? Wake up, kind of. They get offended, right? I mean, even when Arjun's son died on the battlefield, he actually started to cry. And Srila Prabhupada asked him about that, or Srila Prabhupada was asked about that one time. And Prabhupada said, well, that's natural. It was his son. He has affection. But it's not that Arjuna went into a whole funk and depression and just forgot about Krishna. So there's like two things. Difficulties or suffering or tragedies happen. They could bring us away from Krishna, they could bring us toward Krishna. So it could be used as a way not to fall into the mode of ignorance, but to get closer to Krishna. So yeah, the first thing is to have a little empathy and say, okay, I'm really sorry that happened, and try to hear the person out, and then maybe when some time passed, you could try to help them by sharing some spiritual wisdom, some spiritual instructions that will help them understand, well, I'm not the body. Of course, I mean, what do we expect? Everybody to continue, in this body. Body is temporary. And anyways, in so many different ways you could try to help them. But of course, it really depends on the individual. They have to make the choice and have the good fortune and have the good association not to fall into the mode of ignorance, but to and not to take shelter in all types of mode of ignorance things of this world, to try to get solace. But by their good fortune, by their by the association of devotees, they could actually, get closer to spiritual perfection. And there's a nice book written by His Holiness Giraj Swami about that, Life's Final Exam. So he goes into all different types of different chapters describing how to perceive, death and dying, and there's different stories of different personalities and end of the life care and things like that. So we could equip ourselves with the knowledge in that book, and also maybe share that book with others. It's actually a really great idea he had. Life's Final Exam, a very concise book about that. But yeah, it is difficult. Whoa, there's a pin here. Somebody's trying to sabotage me, huh? Assassination. But like recently, one of my family friends, their mother passed away. And it's kind of difficult for her, but anyway, she has some interest in Krishna consciousness, so I'm going to try to engage her more. And she's an older, lady, my mother's friend, but okay. Yeah.
It's very clear to me that working for material desires is pointless. But what if you work very hard for Krishna, for your spiritual master, for the devotees, for the temple? Could that be a wrong way of doing that?
No, it's good to exert a lot of energy. There's different ways. There's different ways to exert energy. There's you could say mental energy, not necessarily physical, right? But there's also physical, like for example, like a farmer, right? Farming for Krishna, versus an editor. You could say, oh, wow, the editor's in such a mire. He's just sitting there all day and check spelling books, and the farmer, he's working so hard for Krishna, right? Sweating and blood, sweat, and tears, and it's well, they could both be working hard. I mean, it's a lot of mental energy to edit, and it's a lot of physical energy to farm, and ultimately, it's about the consciousness, anyways. You could be working really hard out on the farm, or you could be editing books, but the main thing is the consciousness. How Krishna conscious are we, right? How much are we doing this for the pleasure of Krishna? So just like we gave the example some time ago about book distributors, I mean, it's a great service. Prabhupada said it's the most important, right? So many different things Prabhupada said glorifying it, right? But to do it in the right consciousness is important. So I'm going to distribute tons of books, and I'm going to show everybody that I'm better than all of them by distributing more books than them, and especially that brahmachari who I kind of don't like, or it kind of gets on my nerves. I'm going to show him that I'm doing better than him. Or kind of like distributing books in the right consciousness means some time ago there was a brahmachari, and how he would distribute books, we brought this up some time ago, but how he distributed books is he would go out and he would flirt with women, and he would distribute books like that. It's really stupid, actually. Sorry if he's listening, but it's not appropriate. You distribute books. Purity is the force, not our handsomeness or our flirting, right? It's actually a common thing in non-profits. Women flirting with men flirting with women, vice versa, to get people to buy stuff. So we have to be careful that we're doing it in the right consciousness, right? Why are we doing it? We're doing it to please Krishna. We're doing it out of humility, right? We're doing it for the sake of helping people, you know. We're doing it in a pure state of mind, right? So to do that, whether it's farming or book distribution or editing and all this, or, you know, pujari work, it's, you know, and it's, you know, in some ways to be a pujari, it's actually difficult, you know. And if people, sometimes some may not understand that or fully grasp that it's difficult, but, you know, to be somewhere like every single day, like on time, without fail, and then, you know, sometimes when you write your name on the pujari list schedule, it's like you might as well write it in stone, because there's like a lack of pujaris, at least in America. There's no 1-800 pujari, you know. You can call, hey, we need some pujaris here, you know. It's just, anyways. So yeah, we should work hard. That could be mentally, physically, you know. We should exert a lot of energy. Prabhupada exerted a lot of energy. He slept very little, right? So.
What might happen to a person who doesn't have the right consciousness but continues to work very hard for Krishna?
Well, Krishna may make arrangement that he, you know, smashes them somehow. Smashes their false pride, just like Indra, right? Indra's pride was smashed in the Govardhan Leela, where Krishna had to lift Govardhan Hill. And I was just reading last night that some devotees were glorifying Krishna, and they said, "Oh, Krishna, you lifted Govardhan Hill, and you and in comparison, Indra was just a village goat, you know." So, anyways, devotees were saying that. So you got really embarrassed to Indra. But. So yeah, Krishna may smash our pride, or we may just not be able to do it. You know, like Prabhupada said about Sankirtan. He said, actually, if you're doing Sankirtan, you can't fall down. It's only when you stop doing Sankirtan that you fall down. Means if we're in Krishna consciousness, if we're like focused and, you know, like for example, preaching or book distribution, if you're really into it, then, you know, you're in the zone, you know. But once you kind of let yourself out, or some kind of maya creeps in, then we may just stop, you know, or just stop Krishna consciousness in general, because it's the principle of watering the weeds. So if we're watering the weeds and not the creeper, then the weeds become strong and they choke the creeper. So we may just stop. So, but we don't have to do that. We could just, you know, be Krishna conscious and continue, and we don't have to stop. So, all right. Any last?
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Yes.
May I, Balaram Prabhu?
Yes.
Prabhu, thank you. The quote from the purport is, quote, knowledge of Vasudeva requires many births to understand, end quote. So my question is, why many births?
Okay. Well, it's generally speaking like that because, the envy of Krishna, the material desires, the material condition, it's just so strong. Maya is also very strong. And who are we? It's very difficult. But although it says that, Vasudevam Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha, that after struggling for existence for many births, the fact is, by the mercy of the spiritual master, by the mercy of the Vaishnavas, one can quickly, actually, understand and make progress. So, anyways, that's...
that is your answer?
Yes.
Oh, thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
All right, thank you. All right. Okay, thank you. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.